So today I'm here with Steven Mamis. Is that the correct way to say your last name, Steven?
Yeah, Mamis. Yeah.
Mamis. See, these are the little things that we need to learn along this journey. I'm really excited to talk to Steven because he's been deeply involved in restaurant accounting for quite some time. And part of our goal here on the show is to highlight the team members and the people who contribute to the back office in a way that allows operators to do what they do, to shine. And I feel like, Steven, very often the back office is left in the dust. People don't appreciate all the things that you do to make the day to day happen. And so I'm really excited to learn about your background, where you came from, and most importantly, if you're crazy. Because obviously, doing restaurant accounting, I
Yeah.
think it might be the hardest type of accounting that there is. So we'll find out if you're a masochist, Mr. Steven Mamis. So let's start from the top. So where are you currently, Steven?
I am currently in New Jersey. Mostly work from my home office.
And are you a Jersey boy? Are you like born and bred?
No, I actually grew up in upstate New York. At least what people in the city call upstate New York, about an hour and a half north of the city.
Got it. So you're an hour and a half north of the city growing up, and you made your way down to I guess to Jersey. When did this transition happen? Because I feel like most people have a very it's like a love-hate relationship with New Jersey, which I understand. I was born in Camden, right? So
Yeah.
I'm speaking from experience. Every time anybody finds out that I was born in New Jersey, there's like I can tell by their face, they're either happy or
hmm
disgusted. How did you make it to New Jersey?
So by way of Boston, actually, I grew up in New York,
Okay.
upstate New York, Hudson Valley. And when it came time to figure out where I was going after high school, I wanted to go to college in a place that provided, a fun opportunity. And I thought New York City was a bit too big. A lot of the people I went to high school with wanted to go to, college around New York. And I said, no, that's a little bit too big. And I ended up going to Boston and went to college in Boston, loved it, loved the city. Uh, After college, came back for grad school in just outside of Boston, and then after living in Massachusetts for about 10 years, ended up coming down to Jersey for a job.
Interesting. So you spent a lot of time in Massachusetts. What school did you go up to up there?
I went to Northeastern for undergrad,
Okay.
and then for grad school, I went to Bentley, which is in Waltham. It's about 45 minutes outside of Boston.
And Bentley is a very famous business forward school, right? Like that's what they do, right?
It is, yeah. It's well known up there for business. One of two up there that's really well known. I needed some credits at the time. I thought I was going to be kind of going for a CPA exam route, and I needed some credits and wanted to go, get a master's degree. So it was a great fit. I ended up getting an MBA and a master's in accounting in just under 2 years there.
Very nice. And was your focus, I guess, so undergrad going into your MBA, did you always know that you wanted to be an accountant? Like, how did this come together? Was it a family inspiration? Were you always good with numbers? Did you crush the SATs and you just knew it? Like, how did that happen?
No, so well, actually, you're kind of close.
Okay.
In high school, I loved cooking. I loved restaurants, even at that time. And where I grew up was pretty close to the CIA, the Culinary Institute, up in Hyde Park.
Oh,
And after high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do exactly. I didn't know what school would be the best place and what I wanted to do long term. And I thought, well, I love cooking. Maybe I should go to the culinary, become a chef,
no
right?
way. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I had in my head. And uh, it was just from some conversations with my parents and some other people that
Some smart
uh,
people.
smart people, I guess. Yeah, you could say that. They sort of said, you're if you love cooking and you love restaurants, um, maybe think about sort of combining that with something else. And I just also happen to be good at some math, liked numbers. And my dad sort of suggested to me, why don't you go see if accounting is right for you? You can always figure out a way to combine accounting and restaurants later on. Everyone needs an accountant. So that's what I ended up doing. I went to, get a business degree and figured I would just somehow later combine that with my love of food.
Interesting, Steven. So you were close to the CIA, and your father was,
Hmm.
and you listened to your father, which is again,
I did.
I mean, sharp. I like this because everything my father told me to do, I did the opposite. So it sounds like you guys were in good shape. But ultimately, what's interesting to me is taking the feedback from your father about and your family about, hey, maybe going directly into restaurants is not the way to go. But
Yeah.
looking back on that decision and having now been exposed to restaurants for so long,
Yeah.
how do you feel about your decision to go
Um,
this route?
yeah, no, I'm glad I did. Restaurants, total love and respect, but they're a special kind of grind, right? I mean,
Yes.
I have a friend in the industry who, he works crazy hours, weekends, nights, 6 days a week, and restaurants are hard. The kitchens are
Yeah.
hot, and it's just a different type of grind. And while I love cooking and eating and trying anything that has to do with restaurants and food, I think sticking with the accounting route has been a good place for me. So, and now that I'm doing it for restaurants, I'm just as happy as can be.
All right. I like that. So, okay. Did you start when you finished school, and let's say you had your first professional experience, where did it lead you to first? Like, did you get into restaurants right away or?
No,
Okay.
so I'll sort of give you the Cliff Notes version here.
Okay.
After college, I went to work in public accounting. I thought CPA might have to be something that I was
Certainly.
going to do. I did some tax and audit work, decided that wasn't for me. But in order to get future better roles, I still thought the master's was a good next step. So I came back to Massachusetts, got the 2 degrees, and then after that, I worked in about 5 other industries.
Really?
I worked in investment accounting, construction accounting, state transportation, one or two others, but they never just felt like the right fit. I mean, I was good at what I did. The numbers and the accounting were something that came, sort of naturally, but it just never felt right, even though, there was promotions and raises and things like that. I just several months in, I'd be like, this I'm struggling with, sort of finding, happiness here. And it wasn't until I got
Interesting.
into accounting in 2018, ended up getting a role with by coincidence, another Five Guys franchisee, a small one based in New Jersey. That I've, eventually was like, this is where I need to be. And I've been happy since then.
Okay. So, a couple questions for you on that because I feel like that's really interesting that very often I feel like people in the restaurant back office space either start in restaurant operations and then go into the back office, or it's just perhaps like, unlike your dad, right? There's like that connection right away, and there's like pulling you into the family business or whatever. And it sounds like from
Yeah.
your perspective, what I find super interesting is that you've had exposure to all kinds of accounting before you started in restaurants. And what I want to ask you, because I make this assumption, but I don't know if
Yeah.
it's right. And I'd like to hear from you because you do have the perspective that is important. Do you believe, because you've worked in construction, you've worked in public accounting, you've worked in all different kinds of industries, is there something hard? Do you believe that of the industries that you've worked in, that the restaurants are the most intense, detailed, and like hardest to keep up with? Or do you feel like construction or others have their nuances that are just as challenging?
I would say definitely restaurants. I think that people have this misconception that restaurants are easy to deal with, sort of the same as another industry, let's say, or just easier than other industries because it's, simple transaction, right? But it really is sort of a unique beast. You have a POS system, you have a time system, you have a payroll system, you have an accounting system, you have three different sales channels where you can, have sales occurring. You have 25 different vendors that service a restaurant, and
Or more.
or more,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's all just happening at one location,
Right.
right? And when you start talking about, multi-location, multi-unit groups, then you're multiplying all of that. So it really is sort of unique, and that's one of the hardest challenges, I think. Sort of managing all of that data.
It is a lot of data. And
Hmm.
so, Stephen, just based off of that, the data part of it, what do you think in your experience has been the like the technologies, or at least let's say the solutions you feel have been like the most have lived up to the promise
Hmm.
that they have shown? Because to follow up on that, I have another question, but what kind of solutions so far do you feel like are a part of the stack that you're going to use because you're confident in them and you can always recommend them to your clients?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get pitched sort of fairly frequently on
I got to
some.
imagine it's every day.
Thankfully, it's not every day.
Okay.
A couple per month, let's say.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it would be tough to keep up with. You get pitched this optimized, best outcome solution that can do everything you're doing better, right? It's cheaper, or it's faster, or it integrates with your system with less issues, and all of that.
Yeah.
And so, how would you actually kind of figure out whether, if you did implement it, does it live up to that? That's sort of like I think that would be a whole career, is like figuring out whether you were better off before or after, because you have to have some sort of history or historical data plus new
Right.
data after you switch systems, right?
Yeah.
So, and we try to run pretty lean. So anything that's sort of an increased cost, we're pretty much generally going to decline.
Yeah.
If there's one thing though that I would say almost non-negotiable, would be Restaurant365 for restaurant accounting. There's, I'm glad I got introduced. I didn't know about them before I got into restaurant accounting. And I know of, other groups and other operators that try to make other solutions work.
Yeah.
And maybe it does, or maybe it works somewhat well, but I don't see any other software out there that can handle multi-location, multi-unit sort of restaurant accounting and ops the way that they do.
It's R365 has taken the entire industry by storm, and I think it's an incredible platform. And not only an incredible platform, but I believe, as you mentioned, right, it's something that as I've grown in the business as well, because I was an operator before they were even in existence.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the nail on the head, because it's the multi-unit operator that all of a sudden needs way more in terms of multi-unit entries and trying to split up like transactions, like even just like
Yeah.
investments in, I don't know, let's build a new website. And how do we split that up amongst the stores so it's equal if we don't have a management holding company and stuff like that? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. R365 is an incredible platform. But I think one thing I'd like to ask you about specific to that is, what's the importance of having somebody who knows the system? Because
Mhm.
I often you're in a position now where you've got tons of experience in R365 and you've got tons of experience in all different kinds of types of operation. But like,
Right.
I mean, what happens if you don't know how to use the system? You know what I mean? Like, talk to me about the
Yeah.
importance of knowing how to use the platform for like clients and for you specifically with your Five Guys operations. Was it 50 plus units, right?
Right. We're at 55 right now. Yeah.
So
Um, yeah. So you make a good point. It's if you don't know how to use the system, any system really, but
right,
if you aren't trained well or properly, it can be daunting.
yeah,
If you're someone who, I think coming from another system where that other system might have been designed for people who aren't necessarily trained as accountants or coming in with, the accounting background, the education or prior experience in accounting, those will work fairly well for you.
yeah,
Accounting, it does require, especially if you're going to follow the standards of accounting, it does require a specific set of rules and procedures. And R365 from those other systems, I think is, you're going from like a car to a jet, right?
yeah,
It can be, it is a lot. There's a lot more that it can do, a lot more you can customize and do with it. But you have to know how to handle it. And thankfully, I did get training and was trained on it. But if you want to use the system properly, it is important, I would say. And thankfully, there are resources, but I would say that you do have to invest the time to learn it.
yeah. I agree. And I think the car to a jet is the perfect thing because it'll get you there faster, of course,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you're not just jumping in and driving down the street. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hopefully, where you want to go is a little further, and you got the tarmac ready, and you've checked your engines, and you've got everything ready to go. Maybe a couple peanuts. I like peanuts.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I think of it like when you're getting on or off a plane and they have the door open to the cockpit and you can like look inside
yeah,
and see all the little buttons and the levers and all that stuff. Like that's what R365 is. There's a lot of things you can do if you know how to pull the right levers. But
agreed. Okay. On that note,
so
go ahead. Go ahead, please.
actually, I would ask you, what's another tech solution that you say has lived up to the hype?
You know,
I'm curious.
yeah. My focus when I was an operator was definitely
Yeah.
on keeping an eye on COGS because
Mm-hmm.
my major role was to ensure that the beverage program was contributing as much profit to the bottom line as possible.
Right.
And one of the things that was such a honestly like a like a I forget what they're called. Oh, the bottleneck. A bottleneck in my process, which was incredibly difficult to manage, was keeping up with costs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did an ingredient change in cost when I go to count it? Did a specific vintage of a wine change in costs? Did
Yeah.
a case change from being a 6-pack to a 12-pack? Things like that. I would have
Right.
loved a platform like R365, but I also never worked in restaurant groups large enough, let's call it 10 plus, to where
Yeah.
I could focus exclusively on that administrative task. And so because of that, I've been really impressed by a company called Cogswell. I think so. What they'll do is they'll do mapping for you. They'll ingest all your POS data. They give you most recent pricing. They help you put together all your inventory sheets. And it's built by a former compete and see to it team member, C-suite team member that had all that in mind, right? And if I would have had a platform that allowed me to focus in on getting the best prices and not have to worry about updating items, updating my Excel spreadsheets and all that stuff. I love R365. I love, there's a lot of platforms out there that, POS platforms have evolved tremendously in 10 years. A platform like Shoebox, right, which never existed, is incredible. Even Over Easy Office, which is, I'm just giving us a a shameless shout out, but it's
Yeah.
the reason we built it, right? We built it because I was stuck behind a desk so often, and I didn't get into the restaurant industry to do that kind of stuff. I loved
Right.
people. I loved the floor. I loved energy. I loved our guests. I loved our team. That's what I wanted
Yeah.
to interact with. But I was stuck, updating Excel spreadsheets all the time. So, long story short, if it were if I had a single unit or a couple units or even a large group, I would take a serious look at Cogswell because I think they've thought through a lot of the things that are headaches for the operator. And I've been very, very impressed by what they do.
Okay.
But yeah, in general, to be honest, Steven, and this is maybe a follow-up to you, there is so much happening in restaurant tech. So much.
Yeah.
It never
Yeah.
ends. And I see new platforms and the ecosystem gets larger and larger literally every month. And
Yeah.
so, I've been on the restaurant tech sales side for a long time, and we've figured out our kind of little ways to connect with people and expand our footprint. But do you have any advice for restaurant salespeople on an approach that has felt the least predatory, right? One where
Mhm.
you feel like, hey, I'll listen to these guys. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Has something worked for you where you felt comfortable taking a call, or is it very specific to a need that you might have in a Five Guys franchise? Or how do you emotionally respond to someone trying to get your ear?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't love sales calls or cold pitches or any of that showing up in my inbox. It's sales is another one of those industries where I'm sure it's a grind, and it's
Yes.
um, you know
It's
being a kind of a new business owner myself this year, I'm sort of getting a little taste of that also. But
yeah.
um, mm, anything that works well, I guess. I'm willing to listen. 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm willing to give my ear to anything that shows me that they can do something for cheaper or faster or better. There's I never would never turn down that,
Yeah.
because I don't think there's any harm in finding a way to work with someone who can do something better, right?
Yeah.
And improve an aspect of my job, because and I'm an old dog, and I could use some new tricks.
Absolutely.
But it's just tough to know. I mean, I think when you are working with multiple locations like I am, it's tough to kind of understand the full impact of, well, we can do this and we can save you X, but your costs, for 55 locations are going to be this, right?
Yes.
And I have to sort of, generally bring that to my CEO, and figure out whether that's something we want to, make a switch over to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question. I think sales is something that I, I'm not good at, and don't love the sales pitches generally, especially when you can tell they're sort of generic, and
Yes.
coming from someone who doesn't know restaurants, then it really is like,
You
get
just
into your homework.
you just answered your question. So do your homework.
Yeah.
Have a pitch. Obviously, have a solution that's tailored to the industry, and
Yes.
and show value before you ask for the time.
Right.
All right, I appreciate that. Listen, there's a lot of people in our world that are trying to figure out how to talk to restaurants or what it is
Yeah.
they're bringing to the table, and I think often the marketing and the pitch, to your point about, hey, we'll save you money, we'll save you this, we'll save you that, or we'll do it faster, we'll do it cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I think that often doesn't necessarily come to fruition after you've committed. And then it's like this incredible lift to get everybody on the same page, whether it's, a store manager or it's simply, somebody who's helping you in the day-to-day in the back office.
Right.
I think that's often what a lot of restaurant tech providers forget, is that you're not just, of course, maybe you're just selling to a CFO, a controller, or a CEO, but actually making it beneficial and show the value across the operation. It involves so many different people, so many different skill sets, and so many different personalities with different goals and different focuses. So
you hit the nail on the head, sir.
I am very sorry for all of the different cold emails I may or may not have sent you. All right? I'm really, really sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good, man.
But anyway, all right, cool. So let's talk about what you're doing now. So you've spent some time in 2018, you dove into restaurant accounting. It was something that sounded like really connected with you. And and then so you first worked, was your first experience working with Five Guys? Was that your first restaurant experience?
My first restaurant accounting experience was with Five Guys. Yeah, I at the time was looking for a job, needed a job, and I responded to I think it was just an online job posting for someone who said they were hiring a restaurant accountant, and my eyes lit up. I was like, this is it. I gotta get this. I mean, coming from those other industries where I knew it wasn't working. I didn't want to, go find another industry. I was like, this is the time to do it. I got to get in. So, yeah, it was just happened to be another Five Guys franchisee who had about 7 locations at the time, I think, all next door to me, actually, now in this area, New Jersey. And yeah, it worked out well. I worked for him for about 2 years, and then went to another restaurant group. I've been in restaurants since 2018. Went to from that one is where I ended up meeting you and Chubas and Over Easy with an outsourced restaurant, accounting group.
Yeah.
And then after that, worked for an Australian coffee concept based in Brooklyn. And then from there came to the current Five Guys franchising.
So on the Five Guys thing, Steven, because I grew up in the fine dining restaurant world, which obviously is a whole different set of rules, right? It's spending a lot of freaking money on a lot of things that, of course, like set the ambiance. Like, I bet you've never bought flowers for your Five Guys, right? And that's the world I come from. And I've never worked in franchise, and I've never worked in fast casual, and I've always been incredibly curious. Like, what is something at a Five Guys that is a big expense that you need to keep an eye on, but nobody would ever think about? Like, is it, to-go supplies? Is it like fryer oil? Like, what kind of things are hitting your expense line that maybe somebody would never even consider?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I think that there's a lot that you have to keep your eye on, and I don't know if it's the biggest expense on the P&L, but things like bank charges, because you might think of, oh, well, a bank just takes your money and helps you with the payments, but obviously there's fees for transacting with them. So bank service charges are one.
Okay.
And then the commissions for delivery sales, the big three, sort of eat up, a good chunk of fees for that.
Yeah.
So that's another one we keep a close eye on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Those are kind of the two kind of sneaky ones,
kind of silent killers.
Where you got to really keep your eye on the banks and the delivery partners.
And that leads me to another interesting question, because third-party delivery, obviously after the pandemic, completely changed everything, right? Restaurants had to figure out a way to ensure the revenue was there and keep engaged with their community. But I know that a lot of times the big three, let's call them, right, can be a little predatory in their costs. Does Five Guys and larger entities that you work with, do they try to do kind of higher level negotiation with these deliveries? Do each franchisee have the ability to negotiate internally on their behalf? Do different stores have to fight for different charges? Like, how's that
Yeah.
work?
Thankfully, for us, Five Guys does have national contracts with them.
Okay.
So we don't, as a franchisee, we don't have to negotiate, specific sort of fee structures or anything like that. We do get to, set up. Just recently, Five Guys has opened up sort of customer promos, and every franchisee can sort of customize their own promo options for sales, things like BOGOs and things like that.
Got it. So if you're
but on
buying
the
like
fee
sides
side-
or sodas or stuff like that, then you can do
Yeah.
your own kind of promotions.
Yeah, but with the fees, thankfully, it's national and negotiated for us.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Now, I wanna touch on your love of food. So, let's say you win a big contract, because it sounds like you've got a multi-pronged approach, right? You help oversee a large Five Guys franchise in the New York area, and then you've also got some of your own clients that you help support in the day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
So you sign a big group. Let's say you sign a 25-unit CFO contract, and you're going to celebrate. Are you cooking
Yes.
or going out? And what are you going to make, or where are you going to eat?
Celebrate. I'm gonna go out for sure.
Okay,
don't
yeah,
wanna-
because who wants to do
I don't wanna-
dishes? I agree.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Where and what am I gonna get? I don't know.
I mean,
I
well,
like. Go
listen,
ahead.
I'm a former server, right? So I can get to the bottom of this pretty quickly.
Okay.
You like raw bar? Do you like sushi? You into yes to
Yes.
all?
All of it. All-
Are you an East?
grilled sushi, raw bar. Yeah, bring it all.
Okay. Are you an? Do you love oysters? I mean, you spent a lot of time in Massachusetts. You should. Are you an oyster guy?
Yes.
All right. East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
East Coast. All right. You like briny oysters. And then are you like a steak lover, or are you more into fish?
More into steak, but I love seafood too.
I know. I
So
love them too.
if you got ribeyes or
There it is.
chops or
Ribeye it is. I'm a ribeye guy myself. You going medium rare? You going medium? How do you like your ribeye?
medium rare. It better have some pink in there.
Okay, I love it. And do you have like do you have a salad of choice? Do you have a favorite? Are you a Caesar guy? You a wedge guy? Are you going lobster bisque? Like I want to make sure you're fed well, Steven. All right, you just signed a big group.
Yeah, no, all of those. No, not all at once, but there's only a few things that I really don't like. But Caesar wedge for the salad, lobster bisque is delicious. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I love all those things too. So maybe the next time we hang out, we do that.
I'm down.
I love that. And then another thing that came up to me in my mind was this coffee experience. So I know that those down under in New Zealand and Australia are incredibly into coffee.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? And did you become a coffee snob? And what kind of things did you learn just in terms of, because obviously the world of burgers, fries, soft drinks, that kind of stuff, it's way different than like pastries and avocado toast and milk and coffee. So talk to me about that experience. I'm very interested to hear what your takeaways were from working with it was like a high-end talk to me about the coffee experience, because I think that's a really cool.
Yeah, I've loved coffee for a long time, well before I worked there. I don't know actually how that happened. Maybe just because my parents had liked coffee. I don't even know, but I've been drinking coffee for a long time.
Okay.
And generally iced.
Okay.
People sort of look at me weird, even in
I'm
the
an ice
winter.
guy too. I'm an ice guy too.
Um, you'll find me at a Dunkin', pretty regularly. But no, the coffee shop was cool. These two guys from Australia wanted to bring over that coffee situation they got going on over there to New York. And it was really cool. They did some coffee shops in Brooklyn. They also had an events business. It was a great experience. The food was amazing. I mean, I think in terms of like things that Americans would find, not too different, chicken and salads and fruit and yogurt and stuff like that is, kind of all common to us here too. But no, it was a lot of fun, a very fun office experience, and the food was great. But coffee I loved for probably almost as long as I've had any other drink.
So you are. It sounds to me like you are an iced or cold brew, or both.
Mm, yeah, either one, both.
Okay. I'm an iced coffee drinker myself. I'm having an Azahar. Azahar is a coffee shop in Bogota, and I'm currently having
Okay.
a cold brew from there. I enjoy one the refreshing aspect of cold brew, and I also
Yeah.
like see hot coffee to me is also delicious, but it
Yeah.
is and you have children, I don't, but I understand the grind and having to run around, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I have almost lacerated or given myself multiple degree burns from driving around with hot coffee, and that is all avoided with the cold coffee, and it's refreshing. So
That's true. Yeah, no, it's I wouldn't call it an obsession to that point, but yeah, I have a couple coffee makers. I bought a coffee bean grinder so I could grind my own beans.
what do you make your own
Yeah,
cold brew, Steven?
I've dabbled in it. I think during the week it's a little bit challenging with all the other stuff going on to do that every week. But yeah, no, I've tried.
All right. So my last question to you will follow up on that. But so, all right. So tell me now you're breaking out on your own and you're doing some consulting. You're doing some outsourced accounting work. You're
Yeah,
doing and you've got some pretty cool clients. Um, so what would you say now that you're going out on your own in tandem with
yeah.
working with your larger group that you help oversee? What's been the hardest part, do you think, about being on an independent side of helping the back office for restaurants?
The hardest part. I think sort of helping, you know, a lot of the like that outsourced accounting work is great to get that stuff done that needs to get done, right? We've already talked about how many vendors there are coming in, and, so you can imagine how many invoices, obviously, with
Yeah,
the work you do, how many invoices does a restaurant get in a week, right?
yeah,
Um, I don't even want to know how many you guys process, but um, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that I think even operators sometimes aren't even aware of what it takes behind the scenes to get information processed, things like invoices paid, and
yeah.
when you have customers or a franchise in the mix that adds something, and collecting and reconciling credit cards and stuff like that. So the outsourced groups are great to help with that.
Yeah.
I think sort of the piece that I add, the value I can help bring, is sort of not just overseeing and managing and making sure that's all getting done, but just sort of helping the owners and the groups sort of big picture, like where have you been, how can you, forecast and budget and project? Because, that's a, sort of important piece. And that's something I really enjoy doing is sort of, we take the historical numbers and try to figure out, what's next year going to look like. And that's obviously also sort of a big challenge with restaurants, not knowing what are the new trends going to be, or what's going to be happening next year with, food costs or labor costs or things like that. So, that's something I enjoy doing, and helping sort of the management level group, the group at the top sort of see and get done.
Interesting. Yeah, it's trying to understand where you're going, especially in this business that is so ebbs and flows and it's such a dynamic and changing environment. Planning your life around something that's so chaotic at times, I think all of us could use a financial Sherpa. So we thank you for your hard work, Steven, because without you, who knows where we end up? It's just like,
oh no. Yeah, no, I love it. I love what I do. You've so right on point with it being like crazy. It's not easy with, operators who, don't tell you what's happening at the store level all the time. And, vendors who are, sometimes tough to work with, but I love it. And it's, what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future.
I love it. All right, Steven. So I'm in Colombia now. Raquel wants to send you a little gift. So if you had a style of coffee that you most like, I'll give you a couple examples. Do you like more balanced, more like milk chocolatey, dark chocolate style? Do you prefer something that's more exotic and fruity and acidic? Do you like something in between those? What's your coffee style? We're gonna get you a little bag of something delicious from Colombia. What?
Oh, thank you. I would say I'm a dark roast guy.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps, but
it certainly does.
There's I don't know if you've seen it in where if it's done in where you are, but up here you can buy you buy the pre-made in the supermarkets, the bottles of like cold brew or iced coffee that's already made for you.
Steez.
Yeah, so
Steez is one of those.
Yeah, Starbucks has one. There's another one that I can't think of the name of right now. But when I shop and we grab bottles of that every week, it's the dark roast version. So that's what I love.
You like intense flavors, Steven.
I like the dark, roasty, malty sort of.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
So there you go, Raquel. We know what to get Steven. Steven.
I know.
There we go. So, all right, Steven. So tell everybody where they can find you, and what's the best way to get a hold of you if they're looking for help on R365 or looking for a Sherpa to plan their restaurant financial future?
Yes, LinkedIn. I'm on there pretty much every day.
Okay.
Email, our website, useforks.com or Steven@useforks.com for email.
And that's Forks with a C.
C.
All
yes. Right. I would say that's, I thankfully with accounting, it's not something where you have to be creative. It's something, I guess you could say, where being creative is a negative. So when I started this and had to come up with a name, I was racking my brain. I'm not a creative person. How do I come up with a name for a business that's catchy and memorable and easy to read and all that, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in a similar situation. So I was like, how do I do that for accounting, for restaurants, combine that into something that people are gonna, understand? And so I came up with FORCS, FORCS, which is Financial and Operations Restaurant Controller Services. So that's what.
Listen, I've been watching Breaking Bad, so there's definitely a need for some creative accounting. But that's for another show. Well, Steven, it's been a pleasure to have you. If you guys out there are looking for help with your books or looking for someone to help identify ways to make you some more money, or you're trying to plan your restaurant future, check out Steven at useforks.com?
Yes.
Useforks.
Thank you so much for having me on here. It was a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, Steven. Thanks for joining us, and I will catch you soon, my friend. Look out for some coffee in the mail.
86 Reason Podcast was brought to you by Over Easy Office, outsourced bookkeeping solution